Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. But in the setback to the Arvind Kejriwal dispensation in Delhi, the Lieutenant Governor Anil has directed that 97 crore rupees be recovered from Aam Aadmi Party that was allegedly splurged by the city government on advertisements in violation of the Supreme Court guidelines. Baijal also ordered an inquiry into the spendings on advertisements projecting Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and his party and asked the Chief Secretary to fix responsibility. The Aam Aadmi Party will have to reimburse the money within a month. The move comes months after a centre-appointed three-member committee indicted the Aam Aadmi Party government for misusing exchequer money on advertisements. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyse the ad situation in Delhi and also if guidelines need to be set for government advertisements. Joining me on the programme today are Shailja, Chandra, former Chief Secretary of Delhi, Siddharth Mishra, Consulting Editor of Millennium Post, retired Major General Anil Verma, Head Association for Democratic Reforms, and we'll also be joined by an advocate of the Delhi High Court, RM Sinha, later on in the programme. Let me start with Shailja first, of course. Ms. Chandra, as far as the advertisements itself are concerned, they clearly violate the guidelines of the Supreme Court. But isn't a government, or shouldn't a government be allowed to spend on some of the things that it has done and, to send out a message really to the citizens?
Of course, I think the Supreme Court guidelines say very clearly that you must advertise. It's not that they've put an embargo on advertisements. They have said that if you are taking up any constructive work or you're giving benefits to the public, you must bring it to their notice. What is precluded is a kind of an extravaganza which is trying to promote a single person or a party in some way. And that is what has probably happened because I would say that first the CAG came down very heavily and now this three-member committee. And I think they would have taken time because it would have been necessary to check how much the expenditure was. I'm sure the three-member committee didn't go into that, which means the government would have had to. Well, it's a question of who handled these files, who gave these orders. Because if publicity budgets are released, they're not done directly by a minister's office. They're done through a system. You have a particular department, be it health, be it sanitation, be it water. You want to make an advertisement, you spend out of your budget. But it is done at an official level. The sanction is given after approval if the minister wants to do it. So I would say there is something procedurally wrong and also intrinsically, because if you are only trying to tell people you are wonderful, people do not get anything out of it. It's taxpayers' money, and taxpayers are entitled to receive information about what is it that they can be, look to the government for benefits. I haven't gone through the ads in particular of the Aam Aadmi Party, but it was happening even before the Supreme Court gave the guidelines. Uttar Pradesh was putting ads in all the daily newspapers for the Indian, total India coverage. What for? So it was a habit, and the Supreme Court coming down and saying there shall only be X number of people's faces, you will follow these guidelines, having not an ombudsman but a three-man committee to look whether it is going to be carried forward, who is going to oversee it, who is going to monitor it for the country. It's not just for Delhi. I think it's a very good thing because it is very, very expensive to spend on advertisements.
Indeed, it is extremely important, but the guidelines too very categorically state how you can spend that kind of money. What's interesting, Ms. Mishra, is the fact that the Aam Aadmi Party has also spent outside of Delhi and not just in Delhi. If it was just limited to Delhi alone, it was a different question altogether. But it has spent over 20 or 25 crores as far as advertisements are concerned outside of Delhi, and that's a major problem as far as the Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, isn't it?
Yeah, two things. This is not the first case in Delhi where action is being taken in case of if you could say within course wrong advertisement or not something which was not required. Prior to this, when Sheila Dikshit ran for the third time for Chief Minister, and at that point of time, after the elections were won, her information officer wrote an article in the newspaper and said how government advertising helped her reap a political harvest. And it went to the court, and court took very strong made a very strong observations on this, and they said ki, as Shailja said, that advertisements are meant to give information to people and not to reap political harvest. If it happens by the way of it, that's very good. But in that case, her own information director had said that helped her political harvest. She got away because she said that it was not she who was saying it, but her officer who was saying this. Coming to the Aam Aadmi Party issue, yes. The only thing that one knew of, I covered Delhi for a very long time, and only advertisement which Delhi government gave outside the Delhi editions was tenders for tenders for this ganja auction, marijuana auction, which was not allowed by law to be, published in Delhi newspapers. That was the only advertisement which was to be given to the newspapers which are published from outside Delhi. Here in this case, achievements of Aam Aadmi Party, first they were achievements or not achievements, were there anything, were being published in papers, printed, published from as far off place as Bangalore. And people were making, and there were stories of people making calls from Bhopal to the, redressal cells here in Delhi and saying that there is corruption in Bhopal. So you please help us out. Which, people were, it was a case of, taking people for a ride. So it is people's money. It was people's money which was being spent. And we have had instances in Delhi where the government have said we do not have enough money to pay, to pass on to MCD to pay salary for the staff and such things. And here, on the one hand, you say this, and on the other hand, you spend about 100 crores of rupees, to which the Supreme Court has this thing. We must underline this. This is not action of the centre, which the Aam Aadmi Party government, given its habit of playing victim in the matter, would try to reiterate that, they are being penalized by the centre. No, this is not centre. Yes, centre provided the secretarial help. It was Supreme Court's direction. It appointed the members under the Information and Broadcasting Ministry who made this report and submitted to the Supreme Court, and following which action is being taken.
Interestingly, this time as well, there are several Aam Aadmi Party members who have taken to Twitter and have said that, this is again vendetta politics by the centre.
Absolutely. So we must...
And they're playing the victim card again. They're playing the victim card again.
But then the vendetta is by Supreme Court in this situation. If we can say that. The vendetta is by Supreme Court, not by the central government.
But, General, do you see the Aam Aadmi Party, somehow wriggling its way out of this? Because the Lieutenant Governor has said that you've got 1 month's time to abide by my order and repay this money from wherever you can, from your party fund as such, and not from the government's fund. But do you see some kind of technicality where the Aam Aadmi Party wriggles out of this situation?
I do not know whether they'll be able to wriggle out of this, because it's a Supreme Court's direction and it has to be followed. I mean, it is something like contempt of court if they do not this thing. But I would like to just highlight a couple of things. Generally these advertisements are given before the elections, and or like in this case, since there were 5 states were going to elections, and the Aam Aadmi Party had certain aspirations. And that is why probably they spend money in other states and all. But since the inception of the party from 2013, and we do these expenditure reports and we study their income tax returns and all, I just wanted to highlight that as per the ADR reports, in 2013-14, they did not declare any election expenditure in their IT returns. In the next year, 14-15, they declared about 22 crores. And in the year following that, it was about 40 crores or so. And the income tax return for year 2015-16, which they were supposed to submit by 31st October 16, has still not been submitted. Probably they are one of the only parties which has still not done it. So as far as their own this thing, they are the ones who start playing victim this thing, and especially in case of ADR, whenever we publish, like we had published another report in which we had brought out the unknown sources of income, in which Aam Aadmi Party was also there. So there was a big hue and cry that this is incorrect. But whatever we generate is from what the political parties submit to the Election Commission. We are not manufacturing data. So the point which I am trying to say is that there are certain norms. There are 5 very clear guidelines which the Supreme Court had given, and they have broken that. And so I don't think it will be easy for them to wriggle out.
Indeed, I'm going to put that question now to our advocate on the panel, because he's finally joined us on the program. Of course, RM Sinha, if the Aam Aadmi Party does not abide to this order of the Lieutenant Governor and says, you know what, we are not going to repay this 100 crore rupees that you're talking about, what kind of action will be taken against the Aam Aadmi Party, and is the Aam Aadmi Party in a lot of trouble then?
there are so many actions which can be taken. Like the order can be executed by the Lieutenant Governor against the Aam Aadmi Party.
Okay.
Right, sir? And otherwise the Lieutenant Governor can even write to the Election Commission to either ensure the recovery or to de-recognize them. I mean, there are so many actions which can be taken against the Aam Aadmi Party to comply with the order of the Lieutenant Governor.
Sure.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Please, please continue to make your point.
Right, sir. So, with regard to the execution of the order of the Lieutenant Governor, my opinion is that it can be done. And the option, the way out for the Aam Aadmi Party is to go and challenge this order before the court. The Lieutenant Governor has no jurisdiction, but precisely Lieutenant Governor has jurisdiction. Lieutenant Governor has jurisdiction to pass such an order for the recovery of the amount,
sure,
which has been unnecessarily wasted on the advertisement. I mean, you see, even when you see that advertisements are only given and no action has been taken. I mean, I do not know how to say, but this is all absolutely political things. It is not that advertisement means making the general public aware of as to what the government is doing. But here the thing is that government is doing nothing and making advertisements over advertisement. This is a very good order. I tell you, sir, such kind of order was badly needed in the present scenario.
Okay, fair enough. Your point is taken. This such kind of an order was badly needed in such kind of a scenario is what you're saying. But, you know, Ms. Chandra, as far as the order itself is concerned, you know, now whom does the onus lie on to execute this order? Because the money has to be collected over the next 1 month or so. Is it upon the Chief Secretary now to carry forward this order, or how does it work?
Chief Secretary has been given the responsibility. He doesn't have any authority of his own, quite frankly. I mean, you can't send the police to recover the money and make it into a recovery case under the Land Revenue Act or something like that. If it comes to that, then the entire party becomes functus officio, because it ceases to have any credibility. I don't think it can come to that. What I'm wondering is what will happen to the agencies which have received no payment.
Fair enough.
They're not going to be quiet about it, and they're going to knock the doors of the party and of the government, and the government has washed its hands off. In fact, the officers have been debarred from giving any kind of, you might say, making an expenditure to pay for these bills. So I think that they will definitely try something or the other to prevent this order from really being executed. Executing it can be done in several ways, as the advocate just said. But I do feel that it is not in the hands of the Chief Secretary, because he has no innate power given to him to execute it. But the funny part, which I found it rather odd, I remember a statement that no officer was willing to sign the affidavit given in court, with the result the Deputy Chief Minister had to sign the affidavit. That is unheard of on this issue.
Yes.
Because it is always only an officer of the government who is entitled to represent the government in giving an affidavit. No minister signs this. So the very fact that this had to be done by a minister means that probably the officialdom was not even involved in taking these decisions. I also read that there was probably some agency through which they were doing this, whereas we were, at least I am aware, that we were bound to go through the DAVP, Delhi, the Audiovisual Committee, and the rates that DAVP give you are very, very low compared to what you would pay if you went through an advertising agency or if you went directly to a newspaper. I don't know whether any of these procedures have been followed, but now that emanates from the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has said that you will not do it and you've transgressed it, I think the Lieutenant Governor had to. I mean, it was a recommendation of the three-man committee set up on the basis of people of unimpeachable integrity found by a select committee, and then they were set up to do this. It's their job and they've done that job. But they didn't go in through the how much money is involved. That the officers had to do, which they've done.
Fair enough.
I don't know how the chief secretary, I mean, if I were there, how I would have executed
I mean,
it.
that was what I was going to come to.
Because you can't, because you can't use police power straight away. That's the only power you have. You can recover it as land revenue, which means that you treat them as proclaimed offenders or something. Surely it shouldn't, a government shouldn't come to that, a political party shouldn't come to that. And I hope that they will find the money and pay it honorably.
Indeed, indeed. Let's widen the scope of the debate now and talk about government ads on the whole. You know, Mr. Mishra, as far as government ads are concerned, do you believe that the guidelines are enough? The guidelines that have been set by the Supreme Court will be followed by the government? Should we have different kind of guidelines for the centre, for state governments and for union territories as far as government ads are concerned?
You see, it comes to expenditure of public money. So, when you are spending public money, when you are spending taxpayers' money, guideline is of course needed. It goes without saying, creativity comes in second. Primary thing is that you are spending on public money, you are spending taxpayers' money, and that money could have been utilized somewhere else for other welfare programs also. 100 crore rupees is not a small sum, which you have spent in 2 years' time. It's not a small sum. So, whenever it is necessary to advertise, it is very, very important to share, disseminate information. Yes, you should. And I must tell you one thing, that as a student of media, we have had tradition where we have had very good media policies by tradition which we have followed. The DAVP rates about which she talked, and the DAVP empanelment. The newspapers get impaneled to get the DAVP rate after they have put in some number of years of publication and things like that. So those things are in place. Those guidelines have been there. Those guidelines may have been strengthened. But then the intent of the people sitting in the position of power. Now, if the intent is to misuse the money, there's no stopping. There's no stopping the chief minister to sign the affidavit and when the officer is not ready to sign it. Why wasn't the officer ready to sign the affidavit? Because he knew that the wrong has been done. That is why he was not ready to, he had his job at stake. I'm not very sure if his job is still not on stake. Because after all, money has been disbursed, money has been paid. 42 crore rupees has already been disbursed, has already been paid. Public money has already been paid, and recovery, I don't know, it will not get recovered. And then asking Aam Aadmi Party to shell out another 55 crore rupees, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. They will say that we are bankrupt, we can't pay this money.
So are the ad agencies then going to be the sufferers in the end? The
ad agencies would be the sufferer, but I am not very sure, because Delhi government, the present Delhi government, also changed the policy of having their own ad agency, through which they went to the ad agency. There was an agency which they had created. So there are intricacies within intricacies. I don't know if all the newspaper bills have been paid. You see, ad agencies pay you only after, ad agencies pay the newspapers only after the government has paid them. At best, ad agencies stick to their deadline given the reputation of the client. Because they might delay the money later or something, they might get delayed, but they pay the newspapers or the media houses in time. But here in this case, when the ad agencies know that this money is not going to come, I think the newspapers also are going to lose all money on all the advertisements, on the bills on advertisement they must have raised. So there are a lot of people are going to get poorer by this order.
Sure.
There are a lot of people are going to get poorer by this order, and in these times, at the end of the day, a newspaper employee like me is going to be hit by this order, because of the flip side. But on a more serious note, there is no business for anybody to misuse the government money for personal publicity.
Fair enough.
That's the bottom. And governments must advertise, government should advertise, and we came to know about some of the very good, policies of women empowerment of Delhi government when Shailja ji was Chief Secretary, Nari Shakti, Bhagidari, and all those things, and they were all Ladli, the girl child policies, and they were all part of advertisement through which we came to know about.
So advertisements are very important, but it has to be within the framework.
Absolutely, they were welfare program for people. A lot of people did get information out of that. So but using public money for political harvest is not done.
Fair enough. So that's the bottom line at the end of it. General Verma, do you believe that, as far as the public money itself is concerned, there needs to be further accountability for its use by the government or any other agency?
Absolutely. I mean, government money can't be squandered, the way they are doing. And that's the reason why Common Cause filed this petition in 2003. It has taken 12 years for the Supreme Court to give a judgment. 2014 they gave it, and then again there was some amendment in 2015, I think finally the judgment came. There is no doubt there has to be accountability, and like if I remember correctly, in one of the media reports I have read that the LG has also asked the Chief Secretary to pinpoint the responsibility. Now, like Shailja ji was saying, I don't know if the Deputy Chief Minister has signed the thing, who will be responsible for the whole thing. And one point I wanted to state pertaining to the statement of the lawyer panelist, EC can't do anything. Election Commission can't derecognize the party, like he was suggesting, because they don't have the powers at all. And the other issue was about the, if I remember in the media reports also, the LG has asked them to pay the balance amount to the firms. Now, I don't know from where that money is going to come. Like he was saying, whether Aam Aadmi Party will pay it from the political party's funds, or it's not that they don't have money. They can't claim bankruptcy like he was saying. They have money. It is a tricky thing. But yes, as I see it, they will challenge it and they will go to court. And they will try to fight it out.
Indeed, that seems like that's what the logical end to this problem is going to be. Like, the court is where it's going to be decided. So, RM Sinha, as far as the LG's order itself is concerned, where he has said that the agencies will also have to be paid, the money will not go from the government's coffers, the money will, he's not specified as to where exactly the money will go from, but where do you see it going from? Is it the Aam Aadmi Party? Is it the onus now on the Aam Aadmi Party to pay off all this remaining money that is there, which is 55 crore rupees?
Definitely. If the order is there for the Aam Aadmi Party to pay, then it is Aam Aadmi Party to pay. See, may I just tell you why I have told that the Lieutenant Governor may also write to the Election Commissioner to derecognize, because whenever a party is recognized or any institution is recognized, you see, their recognition is always subject to that they are law abiding. It is not, they cannot say that they are not going to pay. It is to be recovered either from the Aam Aadmi Party's fund, and if it is not, then what is the course? Do you think that the course is that they should be scot-free? I am sure no. Any government, any institution which is recognized under some statute, some act, you see, is bound to follow the orders of the government or legal orders. They can challenge in the court, is all right. That is a separate issue. Because quantum will be very important. It will be very important as to how much and how it has been calculated that this is so and so amount. These all are things to be challenged. This is correct. But ultimately, assuming that this order is found to be absolutely correct, then the question comes as to where from the money is recovered. The money is definitely to be recovered from the Aam Aadmi Party, and I am sure that in that event, if the Aam Aadmi Party does not pay, the petition can be moved. If the Lieutenant Governor straightway cannot do it, writ petition can be moved to the High Court for a direction, and also by impleading the Election Commission to derecognize such party. I mean, I am sure that this can be one of a way. The other is, of course, as one of your panelists said, that it is like land revenue is recovered. That can also be done. There is no, debar.
Okay, fair enough.
But yes, it will be interesting now. Sir, please.
It will be extremely interesting. But it's that time of the program now where I can get final comments from all my guests. Let's talk about what can be done by political parties and by governments, in particular as far as advertisements are concerned. There's a lot that has been said about the NDA regime and this BJP government about ads and how the PR mechanism has worked brilliantly over the last couple of years. But also, let's not forget that the advertising spending of this government has come down by almost 50% from the previous government as such. So they've shown us a way, haven't they? You know, Ms. Chandra, as far as the government itself is concerned, they can probably advertise on government channels, on, government websites, through social media. These are some of the ways that they can use rather than spend money like the Aam Aadmi Party has done.
But, I'm slightly digressing from what the point. I agree with what you're saying, but I thought I would add a new dimension. You see, it should be made incumbent on officials to certify who is your target audience. You want to give an advertisement. It is aimed for the slum colonies or the unauthorized colonies. There's no need for it to appear in all the national dailies. It should go in the form of the vernacular newspaper, the Hindi newspaper, which is circulating over there, or which is widely read by those people. They're not reading the major newspapers. So why are you putting it? And that applies to all political parties. I mean, I have seen advertisements, you make my blood boil. It is about some bridge or something in Uttar Pradesh. Why should all the newspapers be having front page and full page advertisements on that? That is really, just throwing money away. So that is number one. Who is your target audience? You're talking about a bridge, you're talking about a hospital, you're talking about a dispensary, you're talking about some tiny thing that is going to happen in a particular place, a mohalla or something. You have to be very clear, does your target audience, which is the media which will reach them best? So just frittering away money in this manner, very often it's only the Hindi newspapers which will be read. There's no need to be going into all the English newspapers.
That's a very valid point that you're making.
English channels also. How many people are watching English channels?
Targeted advertisements is something that is required.
That is
the
required.
Need of PR, yes.
And when you make a media plan at the beginning of the year, you should be in a position to say, you can't earmark that exactly what ad will come out, but that you have a certain proportion of your budget earmarked. Health can have a proportion earmarked for publicity, and you shouldn't go beyond that. There could be some money at the disposal of the chief minister, because obviously chief ministers have to think broadly, not departmentally. But you must know that it has to be a 1%, 0.5%, something of your budget. You can't just do it at any kind of a reckless place.
Fair enough.
So
I'm running out of time. Quick closing comments from both my guests here. Yes, Siddharth Mishra, your quick closing comment.
She talked about media plan. Yes, media plan is very, very necessary. It's very, very important. And they do have media plans also. But if the intent of the media plan is to manipulate media, manipulate media through advertisements, arm twist media through advertisements, or facilitate a media house through advertisements, that's called manipulating media.
Sure.
And something, it's kind of, not directly, but indirectly, some kind of paid news. So you have to, a government cannot be seen through its advertisement policy to be manipulating media. That's something very, very important. And for survival of ethical media in this country, it's very important that media is not manipulated through government advertising.
Fair enough. General Verma, quick closing comment from you.
Yeah, firstly, the public funds should not be spent on this thing, and if at all they are, even in the Supreme Court judgment I was reading, they have said we have set certain guidelines, and as long as these are followed, it is fine, but this is not the end and be all. You can, sort of innovate and this thing. And accountability has to be fixed. You can't have two different set of rules, one for the public and one for the political parties.
All right. On that note, I'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Shailja, Chandra, Siddharth Mishra, Anil Verma and R.M. Sinha. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me, and of course, ladies, for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective. For us, that's all the time we have. See you again next time.